everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Everybody's gearing up for that big solar eclipse in Aries that we're going to be seeing on Monday. We're going to talk about the astro weather and we're going to touch on this eclipse, and it's going to be for April 7th through the 14th, 2024. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, smash the bell button, subscribe to the channel. You guys will be alerted when we have new videos coming out on all of the transits this month. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video and let me know which house the solar eclipse is taking place in your chart, and are you already feeling the effects of it? I know I am. It has been a crazy week for me. So yeah, we're going to talk about what's kind of going on. I want to remind you guys that I still have my extended readings on the lunar eclipse in Libra and the solar eclipse in Aries. Eclipses come in pairs, so we're still feeding off of the first one that we had at the end of March. An extra 2 hours of insight, intuitive insights for each and every one of the 12 rising signs, and a little bit more in terms of me touching on the meanings of these eclipses. Very different kind of style, but I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback about this stuff. So if you guys want to check it out, it's now for sale on my website. You can head over to beyondtheveiltarot.com and you can pick up the audio file that you can listen to as we're coming into this energy. Now I'm titling this video The Tip of the Spear. And there's kind of like a reason behind that. I think a lot of this as, this particular week with the solar eclipse is the catalyst for change. And when I think of spears and I think of anything relating to combat or challenges, obviously the sign Aries kind of comes to mind. Very potent energy with this exalted sun in conjunction to Chiron. So when I think about the phrase, the tip of the spear, it's been used historically to describe a person or a group that is at the forefront of a movement, an initiative, or a military operation. It signifies being at the leading edge, taking the most challenging and critical tasks, and often facing the most risk. Now, I did a little research on this phrase. I guess historically it has been used in military contexts to describe the units that are at the first to engage with the enemy, such as the U.S. Army's 1st Battalion, 501st Infantry Regiment, and 4th Airborne Brigade Combat Team, the 25th Infantry Division, and this has been nicknamed the tip of the spear. So it has some kind of connection to combat and military, no surprise there. But in a broader context, this phrase has been used to describe, individuals who are leading some societal or political movement. So for example, the civil rights movement, leaders like John Lewis were referred to as the tip of the spear, and they were at the forefront of the nonviolent protests and activism. So in a more recent context, this phrase has been used in technology and business sectors to describe companies or individuals leading innovation and disruption in their fields. So I'm hoping some of you guys are going to kind of see this energy out in the world. You may feel like you're embodying this energy, or you're at the forefront of creating some significant change. Now, this is an eclipse that's going to kick for quite some time. I'm going to take you guys through the time periods of when it's going to be the most active, so don't worry about that. And if you hang tight until the end, I'll take you guys through the 12 signs and give you some tarot insight as to what to expect from this particular eclipse. Now, the eclipse is also very significant because it's making an exact conjunction. The sun and the moon will be making an exact conjunction per the minute to Chiron. So when we see the sun in Aries in conjunction to Chiron during a solar eclipse, it signifies a period of profound healing and personal growth. Chiron is known as the wounded healer and represents deep-seated wounds, that the wisdom gained from healing those wounds and how they kind of come up for you. So during a solar eclipse, the moon passes between the earth and the sun, temporarily obscuring the sun's light. This celestial event often marks significant turning points and new beginnings in all of our lives. So even if you don't have any personal planets in Aries, because it has some aspect and connection to the North Node, it's very likely that we are all going to be initiating some sort of new beginning. Now with the sun conjunct Chiron, it's also highlighting areas of our lives where we may have experienced some sort of physical pain, emotional pain, or wounding, particularly related to your sense of self and your identity. Now, this alignment encourages you to confront and heal these wounds, ultimately leading to personal transformation and growth. Just because the eclipse is taking place this week does not necessarily mean that this is when we're going to see all of the effects of it. Eclipses unfold over time, and this one, depending on how you look at it, will be pretty active in the first immediate 100 days, but will actually span to nearly 4 years. Now, Aries is associated with the very first sign of the zodiac. It has qualities such as courage, independence, and self-assertion. So with this Chiron conjunction with the eclipse, it's suggesting that the healing process may require you to tap into Aries qualities to overcome past traumas and embrace a more authentic version of yourself. But remember, with eclipses, it's like a wild card. You never know what you're going to get. Likely there is some unexpected, out of left field type of situation. This is an eclipse that deals with action. And I think this is about really bringing the light to a situation where it's dispelling the darkness. So all of us can really kind of look forward to the solar eclipse, providing us with a powerful opportunity, I think, for personal growth, healing, and transformation. Many of us will be feeling like we need to confront and heal these past wounds to step into a more confident and empowered version of ourselves. These things are scary. The things that are coming up right now do require us to make change. Growth requires getting out of our comfort zone, and I think in the sign of Aries, getting out of our own way. We're going to learn that success takes hard work and determination, and that now is the time to be brave. So push forward and focus on rising to the occasion. All right, we're also going to see a Mars-Saturn conjunction that'll be taking place also this week. We're going to see a Mercury Cazimi as well. So I will be making 2 separate videos on that. But if you guys are wanting more in-depth insight into the solar eclipse in Aries, or maybe the Mercury retrograde in Aries, these videos are already on my channel. I recommend going and taking a look at them. We go in depth and we talk about some of the themes revolving around how this is going to impact the collective, as well as the 12 rising signs. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to talk about what's going on for the 7th through the 14th. If you guys are watching this on the 7th, happy Sunday to all of my Sunday crew warriors. I hope you guys are doing well. Truth be told, I think we've been feeling the effects of the eclipse for a little while now. Ever since we started seeing, Mercury coming into, retrograde, and the sun's most recent conjunction to the North Node, we are already becoming aware of where we need to initiate some sort of change. Now, solar eclipses are new moons, right? So we're planting new seeds. But April's a bit topsy-turvy. We've got a Mercury retrograde, which kind of indicates that this new beginning has yet to be determined. There is a sense of needing more self-awareness, more information, more, strategy, better scheduling, some sense of reassessing things. My personal belief is that with this particular solar eclipse, it may not necessarily be beneficial to be setting intentions. I'll give you guys some other dates that I kind of think could be better later in April. But me personally, I'm waiting until we get to the new moon that's going to be taking place in Taurus next cycle, because I feel like it's going to be kind of like a better energy to work with, a little bit more stable. Obviously, we're going to see some Uranus stuff, but it is what it is. And there's mixed beliefs in regards to how to kind of celebrate the eclipse. I will just say, me personally, I've been kind of, reading up on it in recent years, learning more about the eclipses. Obviously, we shouldn't be viewing it unless we've got our little eclipse glasses. But somebody sent me a video recently that was really interesting, and it was from like a Native American perspective of their view of celestial events like this, like solar eclipses and lunar eclipses. And he was talking about how they view the solar eclipse when the sun goes dark as like a death and a rebirth of like the sun. So that energy, that connection to source. And was discussing how, when we perceive this from Earth's, viewpoint, there is a death and an ending that's going on in relation to their connection with a higher power, right? The sun produces energy. It's why we're alive. It's why things grow. And that they use this as a time basically to kind of like sit in ceremony, to pray, to sing songs, to, hold space and raise vibration and prepare for this new coming, kind of period. And that they saw this almost as like what would be a cross between a funeral and like a birth celebration, because with both endings, right, life and death, there is some kind of connection to completing a cycle. And he was almost like saying, like, they treat it almost like a funeral, and they're praying for protection. And it's seen as a time where they are asked to make new commitments and like make new promises, and to be focusing on like new initiatives. I think this is so true with this particular solar eclipse in Aries. I'm not going to tell you don't set your intentions. I'm not going to tell you don't look at the sun. You do whatever you want to do with this information. But it is a good time, right, to not be taking a lot of action. Ironically, right, Aries is about, Mars energy and kind of getting going. But until we see the Cazimi happen, which will be happening later this week, we don't really know which way this eclipse is going to fall. We are still yet to receive some sort of information to help us make a better decision about this new beginning. And I would encourage all of you guys to do what you can when the eclipse is taking place, to take some quiet time to reflect, even if it's just a few minutes, listen to some high vibe, music, do some meditation, do some prayer. If you guys want to fast, if you guys want to stay out of the sun, you can do that. But take time to have some quiet time to reflect, because it's not about action. It's about, recognizing that this cycle is completing and then getting ready to start something new. I'd love to hear some of your guys' ideas about this, your perspectives. Especially if you guys have a different perspective. A lot of practitioners also believe that doing any type of intention setting or like magical type things, or if you're, trying to initiate new things under the energy of an eclipse, you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know if a business will be successful. There can be some kind of shock and surprise where something doesn't accordingly go to plan. So think about that, just some bits of words of advice. And when we see the moon, I think move into Leo. I think it's closer to the 17th. That might be a better time to set intentions, or you guys can wait until we get closer to the new moon in Taurus next month. All right, Sunday, the 7th. So we wake up this morning and the moon is in Aries. So the moon is going to be in Aries for the next 2.5, almost 3 days. We are coming into the eclipse energies. Wherever the moon is where we are kind of picking up on things emotionally. Been kind of wacky the last couple of days. I'm actually filming this on Friday, so I don't quite know what's going to happen, but I noticed that on Friday, the moon was starting to come into malefic conjunction with Mars and Saturn, so it kind of feels heavy. We feel blocked. We're feeling very emotional. And then we're going to see very early in the morning on the 7th that ingress where the moon goes into Aries, and it's preparing for this solar eclipse. Keep in mind that the eclipse is ruled by Mars, and the Mars-Saturn conjunction is building, and we will see the conjunction just after the eclipse. But I really feel like we're feeling the challenging energies this morning on Sunday, because the moon is feeding off of Mars, right, being in conjunction to Saturn. So there's something going on here where it's like, okay, I want to get going. I want to do something new. I have some kind of idea, or I need some kind of action. And Saturn is starting to kind of create those barriers or those roadblocks for Mars to be able to do what he wants to do. So there is both this kind of push and also pull energy of, okay, moving forward, but it's like, wait, there's a roadblock, there's a delay, there's a challenge, there's some kind of limitation. I think this is quite literally materializing on, Sunday going into Monday as possibly challenges that can be happening with travel. Mars and Saturn is stormy energy. This isn't a sign that deals with the ocean, but also fog and clouds. So I do anticipate that some people in some parts of the eclipse path are going to be a little disappointed to find that the weather is kicking in and it may be hard for visibility. Can be challenging for people who have been traveling to go and see this, but part of me, selfishly living in Texas, is I'm like, please, we don't need to see it. It's fine. Let the clouds roll in, but maybe that's just me. Because obviously we know that areas where the eclipse has visibility, or where we see more totality, is going to have more of an impact on some of these areas, right? But some people would also say you can't kind of fight the stars, they're going to do what they're going to do. So you'll notice this push-pull energy this morning. We are in a dark moon phase, so that means all day we're feeling a little grumpy. We can be a little agitated. There can be a sense of, feeling like we're kind of being told that we need to get up and get going, but we'd probably rather stay in bed or hide out, or maybe we're just feeling super run down because Mars conjunct Saturn will create some lower energy levels. Now, what's nice though is round about the time you guys are watching this, we are going to see the moon coming into conjunction with Venus. So that does sweeten things up a little bit. Now, Venus is in Aries. Yeah, it can be a little spicy, but it can also be great for relating, self-love, socializing, anything in regards to, beauty and harmony and relationships. But we do have a Venus that is a little debilitated being in this sign because she's moving through a Mars-based sign, Aries. So, Venus is kind of like wielding, her weapon, and we're kind of feeling the effects of her dispositor, Mars being conjunct Saturn. So people might be feeling very passionate. They might be feeling like they want to relate, they want to connect. There is some kind of sense of like being really kind of abrasive maybe with relationships or with like affection. And so not everybody is going to like that energy. They might be like, leave me alone, let me sleep in. And we'll see that moon start to then separate right around midday and move away from Venus. So we're going to start to kind of lose that particular aspect. Literally, pretty much the only thing that's going to happen all day. We will start to see tomorrow that the moon is making contact with the North Node just prior to the solar eclipse. So how do I see this energy? Well, even on Sunday, right? For those of you guys who like have work or you have a 9 to 5 on Monday, you're not going to be able to like do your eclipsey things. This is a wonderful time to be like purging, clearing, getting rid of stuff, detoxing, anything that we want to release and kind of clear away. It can be a great day where we're actually benefiting from the energy of Saturn, where we're saying, you know what, before we actually initiate new things, we have to be willing to kind of like face the music and say, okay, it's time to cut this off. It's time to clear this. It's time to, purge that before we can actually like initiate new stuff as we get further into Aries. So great day to be doing those things. Don't get frustrated if you have some delays or, some challenges in terms of feeling like other people are blocking what you're hoping to get done. And be mindful that there's going to be some grumps that are going to be around most of Sunday. Now, the moon's going to keep moving through Aries into the evening. We won't see the North Node moon conjunction until the early morning hours of April 8th. So this will be the same day as the eclipse. The nodes are connected to the moon, and this is about fateful events. Aries energy is instinctual, right? It is passionate, it is daring, it's courageous, independent. So I do kind of feel like I would pay attention in the morning of Monday and be like, how are you feeling? Just personally, sidebar, I have my moon in Aries. I've had the North Node conjunct my moon. It makes me act like a javelina or some kind of wild, ferocious beast, maybe a hyena or I don't know, something like that. But there's definitely this side of the moon North Node where you never really know what you're going to get. And you get kind of spicy. And so I think about how the North Node moon conjunction can bring up tantrums, strong emotional reactions, becoming very reactionary and kind of combative, especially when we think about this Mars-Saturn conjunction. Even if it's not something that you're doing externally, so much about this particular eclipse is also talking about where we actually are watering ourselves down, or we are afraid of conflict, we're afraid of clearing the air, we're suppressing these natural instinctual desires or frustrations. And when we do that, right, Mars-Saturn can actually bring about separation, it can bring isolation, it can bring mental health issues, drug issues, the list goes on. So there's a fine balance between raging war and holding it all in. And I think that's really what this eclipse is about. I would just pay attention to your moods and what's kind of coming up for you Monday morning. If you instinctively or intuitively feel like you have to write something down, you have to use an affirmation, you have to have a conversation. And I say this because it's at a 15 degree. Pay attention to that. It is possible that you're kind of tuning in or getting some sense of awareness that's like, this emotion's coming up for me. It sucks. Why is this happening? And like, how can I better work through it? And where maybe it's coming up because your body, some type of irritation, some type of like reaction is trying to tell you, hey, you're actually not processing this frustration, anger, maybe even grief appropriately with Mars conjunct Saturn. Now that moon's going to keep moving. It will then pass the North Node early in the morning. If you have the ability, it's worth kind of getting up a little bit earlier okay? I'm Central Time, so you're going to be seeing this somewhere around 5 a.m. Pacific time, 7 a.m. Central time, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Obviously, I know we have people all over the world, so if you kind of live in Europe or other parts, this is going to be, you know, in the evening or later in the day. But I would pay attention to what's coming up just before the eclipse, personally, with that conjunction. I have kept telling everybody and saying with this eclipse is where we kind of realize that we are doubting ourselves. We are holding ourselves back. We are letting fear run the show. We are afraid to initiate something new, or we're feeling like we're incapable of getting something going. And so we can really use this lunar kind of shift to initiate energies of feeling like excited and active and capable. And yeah, we can get a little anxious as well. That's definitely possible when we have the moon go through Aries. Okay, so the moon's going to keep moving. It looks like we're going to see that conjunction with the sun taking place in the afternoon. So you'll see the eclipse somewhere in the afternoon, depending on where you are. And I'm looking at this kind of, you know, it's a stellium basically. Look at, we've got Venus, the North Node, the moon, the sun, Chiron, and Mercury all in Aries. So everything's saying, we want this new beginning. How's it going to happen? What's going to take place? What should we be anticipating? And all of this is happening at 19 degrees. So the conjunction to Chiron is really shining a light and saying like, hey, there's some shadow work we have to do. Or in order to start something new, we have to kind of heal this wound, or we have to be willing to be more compassionate towards ourselves, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with other people. And Mars-Saturn is saying there's something kind of looming in the ethers that wants conflict, that wants us to feel like we're incapable or unprepared, or like, you know, kind of like defeated. So we really want to remain hopeful. That's really the key here with this eclipse. We're hopeful. We know that it may bring some challenges. It may be a bit of a brawl to kind of get some of these new things going. We may feel like we're fighting or resisting parts of ourselves, but there's something that's kind of breaking through. And in the PM hours, we're actually going to see right after this eclipse, then the moon is going to come into conjunction with Mercury. So the eclipse is really super, super active until we get into the next new moon. So you guys will see this play out in the immediate next month or so. Also double down because of the retrograde. But I would watch after the eclipse when the moon starts coming into conjunction with Mercury. Okay, so we're going to see this in the PM hours. About 8 or 9 hours later, the moon, which is our emotions, this also represents how we're all kind of feeling collectively. The moon comes into conjunction with Mercury, which is the messenger. Mercury is retrograde, so he's kind of looking at the moon, being like, I'm relaying you some sort of information. So I'm anticipating this is going to be messages that might be internal. It might be this sense of like an epiphany or an awareness. It can be about new beginnings, moving forward, being brave, and initiations of sorts. Now, this is at a tricky degree because it's going to be at 24 degrees. And 24 degrees is a Pisces degree. So it means that in its positive sense, it could be spiritual. It could be a dream. It could be an intuitive feeling. It may be something that just kind of comes up for us out of the blue. But there's other things that come up with 24 degrees. So reading you guys Nicola's book, Degree Theory, 12 and 24 always relates to Pisces. And it's things revolving around disappearances, something disappearing, someone who disappears, a loss of something that we may love, secretly, mysteriously, keeping a secret, something unexplored, fear, phobia, psychiatrists, insane people, mental institutions, mental diseases, hospitals, doctors, things that are invisible, hard to find, medication, chemists, pharmacists, isolated places, outskirts of town, vicinity of hospitals, prisons, or mental institutions, monasteries, sanctuaries, of religious divine nature, church icon, divine, Eden, heavenly God, contact with God, hotels, things that happen at night. So this will be happening the night of the eclipse, that conjunction with Mercury. To fall asleep, a dream, a bedroom, an error, to make a mistake, oil, gas, gasoline, drug addicts, drug dealers, photography, false, counterfeit, or insincere, things that are vague, foggy, or obscure. Research laboratories, science, doctorate degrees, sea, fishermen, drowning, poisons, godfathers, and flight to run away or to escape. So obviously there's so many different ways that you can interpret this. I wonder about people getting really crazed about what's going on with the eclipse. I wonder if there's a bunch of people running around being like, how is this going to impact me? And like, are we not going to be able to get gasoline? Or are we not going to be able to have, like the resources that we need? Maybe. And I say this not to stroke fear, but because I look at then Mars being the dispositor, which is in Pisces, coming into conjunction with Saturn. So I could see, some people being like, well, it's, hard to get what we need. Maybe you're in a heavily populated area because of the eclipse. I don't know. I think about, like hot moods that are going to come up that evening, intense communications, feeling the need to reflect on our emotions and how they impact our communication. This eclipse in particular will be, taking place in the afternoon, but I think it's going to kind of kick quite a bit in the PM hours. Now, the Sabian symbol of this eclipse, right, the 20 degrees of Aries, I've read it for you guys, but I'll read it one more time. We read 20 degrees because the eclipse is at 19. So we round up and the Sabian symbols give us like a brief description for each and every one of the particular 360 degrees. So a young girl feeding birds in water. The symbol is associated with the themes of nurturing, care, and the ability to provide for others, even in challenging circumstances. It suggests a compassionate nature and a willingness to help those in need, even when resources may be limited. The symbol also emphasizes the importance of maintaining hope and connection to nature, as symbolized by the birds in times of hardship and adversity. Now, something else that I think about in terms of this eclipse is that obviously it's going to be felt strongly for the immediate next month until we get to that new moon in Taurus in May. But I also think about how Mercury will go retrograde and reactivate this eclipse degree at 19 two different times. Venus is going to come through and activate this particular eclipse degree. So we're going to see this be pretty active all month long. Don't anticipate that this is going to be like, oh, something has to happen on this day. No, this eclipse seems to indicate that this will be unfolding over the next immediate 100 days or so. So we'll see the effects of it over the next 100 days. I personally believe, and I've said this I think once before, that by the time we get to the full moon in Aquarius in Leo season, which is going to be square Uranus, that's when like the wheels fall off and we're like, holy cow, like whatever took place in April is now really affecting everybody in, July, August. Anyway, the other thing is that this eclipse is 4 minutes long. So some astrologers will correlate the length of the, total eclipse to years. So some people are saying, hey, it could be, 4 years that we're feeling the effects of this. Sounds crazy? I don't really think so. Because we're going to see in 2025 and 2026 that there will be a Saturn-Neptune ingress into Aries. So I do feel like, yes, this will likely play out for the next 4 years. Round about 4 years from now, Saturn in Aries will be going over these degrees. So we will see the true kind of like effects of whatever is being planted, whatever seeds now are taking place will have implications, 4 years down the road. And that'll be 2025 and 2026. We don't technically see the full conjunction actually until 2026 between Saturn and Neptune. Now, solar eclipses, obviously, like I said, good time for fasting, prayer, high vibe music, putting, lighting a white candle, cleansing, right? Not necessarily a time that's ideal for intention setting. Not your stereotypical new moon, and we don't really know how things are going to shake out yet. I would recommend doing your intention rituals when the moon is trining the North Node and Chiron and Mercury. This will be on April 17th, okay? So if you can wait a couple of days, you're going to kind of benefit a little bit better because at least the moon is going to be in more harmonious aspect. It's going to be trining some of the same points from when we had this eclipse, and it's still reverberating off of that exalted moon that's in Aries. Otherwise, wait till the new moon in Taurus. That's my recommendation. Now, here's some fun facts. Aries rules places like Syria, Denmark, England, Germany, Israel, Iran, Japan, New Zealand, Portugal, Spain, and this isn't a place, but it is worthy of mentioning, the United Nations. So I think we're going to hear more talk revolving around these places. I think we're going to hear more about what's going on with the United Nations. I think we're going to also hear more about NATO. And although the eclipse is not directly going through these places, I want to be very specific. If you guys have seen the eclipse map, it's really going to be stretching from parts of Mexico up through Texas, parts of the Midwest in the United States, up the eastern coast near Washington, and into parts of Canada. So traditionally, we kind of see places where we have these eclipses is where there's the most action. We've had 2 other eclipses that have kind of made some similar aspects. I'm sure everybody has seen like the big cross, and it almost looks like the Anarchy A between the 2017 eclipse and 2 other eclipses combined. But this is going to be similar, believe it or not, to the series of eclipses that we saw in the United States in 1776. So there is some similar kind of like pioneering, kind of fierce, independent type energies that are reverberating off of this eclipse. Now, some things that you can do to celebrate this particular eclipse, some recommendations that I can make. Number 1 would be like intuitive pathfinding type of work. This is going to be about self-reflection and exploration of your inner strength and vitality. You can light a white candle and envision being in a sacred space. And as you connect with that energy, I want you guys to visualize a path that is unfolding before you. And this path is meant to symbolize your journey of self-discovery and personal growth. And so as you focus on the path in meditation, set some type of, personal intentions revolving around where you wish to see the progress going. So much about Mercury being connected to this eclipse cycle is about saying, let's reevaluate where we see ourselves going, what direction, what we think, how we communicate, what we believe in. Let's reassess something and try to visualize like a new way forward. So this is a really good thing that you guys can do, because where intention flows, energy goes, and we are going to see this kind of get activated a couple different times. Now, for many of you guys, and especially a lot of people, there's a lot of people that are traveling to see this eclipse all over the country. Aries is known for adventure and exploration. So I would say that you can use this as a time to set intentions to step out of your comfort zone and try something new, okay? However, it's an eclipse conjunct Chiron. People can be feeling a little reckless. There can definitely be people who are more prone to injuries or accidents. I think of Aries and the head and the face, and people standing outside for hours waiting for this eclipse and getting a sunburn. Bring your hats or anything that you need to create shade and make sure that you're not getting some type of like overheating or overexhaustion or dehydration. Stay hydrated during this time. But this can be a time where you're focusing on what new hobbies you want to try. Maybe you take a different walking route than you usually would. Maybe you're planning some kind of a trip to a new location. Maybe you are just embracing the excitement of discovery and the unknown. And this can lead to personal growth and deeper understanding for your passions and desires. So this can be like replacing fear with excitement. I think that can be a really wonderful way to work with this eclipse, because you're going to hear a lot of negative things, a lot of gnarly things about it. But the truth is that, the eclipse is going to do what it's going to do, right? The transits are going to do what they're going to do. So the only way to best work with it, I think, is to rework and reimagine. Okay, don't know where I'm going yet, but I'm excited. It's going to be an adventure and I'm here for it. And having that type of kind of mentality as we're coming into this period. I love using this time period also as a time where you're writing a letter to your future self. Sounds kind of corny, but stay with me. So if you guys were to consider writing a letter to your future self and detailing your current dreams, your goals, and your aspirations, I think it could be particularly potent, because eclipses are known to manifest things. Like it's a time where we're kind of having our karma doled out, right? So the impact and the effects of the eclipse can really magnify whatever is meant to happen. So, this can be wonderful for reflecting on changes that you want to see in your life and the steps that you're taking to achieve them. Seal the letter and place it in a safe spot, and you can revisit it whenever you need a reminder of strength and resilience and why you started some of the new things that you started. I think this ritual can help keep you focused and motivated on your journey. And if you don't want to, write a letter, you can, send yourself an email, right? Modern day version. Send yourself an email and don't open it at a later date. Maybe you're saying, okay, I'm setting a goal for, initiating this new thing over the next 6 months. And in 6 months' time of focusing on this goal, go and open up that letter, open up that email, put notes to yourself on your desk, in your bathroom, in your car visor, places that you're going to see it regularly. That's going to remind you to kind of stay on the path. And then obviously self-compassion, right? Sun, Chiron, and Aries. And reflection. So taking time for self-care, reflecting during the solar eclipse. This can involve, a cleansing ritual, if you want to use sea salt or flowers or essential oils. You can meditate, you can journal, you can connect with your inner self. These things are okay. We just don't want to be like launching businesses or making big major life decisions or making big announcements or, trying to do like a huge altar space where we're trying to invoke something. No, we want to be focusing on getting grounded, getting clear. If you want to cleanse, you can do that. Because the goal here is, like I said, to sit there and focus on like honoring this ending so the new beginning can come through. So there's a lot of stuff that's still kind of wrapping up. So we're giving the necessary energies to prepare for this new beginning and also nurturing our spirits in the process. So just a couple ideas of some simple things that you can do, but you can go a long, long, long way just taking a salt bath and having like a white tea light. Like you don't have to spend a lot of money, to be able to do something simple to kind of ritualize this new beginning. Light is a good idea because with the solar eclipse, everything gets dark. So we want to incorporate fire. We want to incorporate light. You can use candles. You can use bonfires, smudging, writing intentions of things, burning it. You can also make a list of things that you're like, these are all the habits that I'm ready to kind of like bid farewell. And then, you obviously be careful, burn it, throw it in like a fireplace, or in like a pot or something that's going to be fire safe. Super easy way to be able to like work with this energy. Once we get into Taurus season, things start to grow. So we'll start to see some more positive effects of this. And this eclipse will not manifest as a lunar eclipse in Aries, by the way. So this fall, mid-September, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Pisces. We're going to have a solar eclipse in Libra. While we will always have the full moon 6 months later, it's not going to be an eclipse. So I'm a little kind of like on the fence. I feel like this is going to kick more, I think, during like the Venus Mercury retrograde in Aries next year and when Saturn starts coming into these particular degrees. So we'll see. All right. So here's a list of herbs and things that I can recommend that you can work with if that's something that interests you. A lot of these things you guys might have in your kitchen cupboards, so you can incorporate that either into your supplements or you want to make a bath or you want to make tea. My go-to always with Aries is ginger and chamomile, okay? Most everybody has that in some form in their cabinets. Drinking that as a tea, steeping it, throwing it in a bath, washing, counters and stuff with like a diluted tea mixture or something you can consider doing. But you can also use basil and aloe, ashwagandha, milk thistle, wormwood, burdock root, and cloves. Sometimes I like to like make a combination of this stuff and like put it on a little charcoal disc or just kind of put it with some incense and burn it. These are all herbs that are associated with Mars, and it's going to help kind of bring about some of this energy that I think is going to move us out of this Mars-Saturn sluggishness. So if you're feeling like you need a little extra pick-me-up or motivation, burning some of that on Monday, or maybe just putting some ginger, some chamomile, maybe some basil on your salad, something like that can be really helpful for kind of getting things flowing. Now for essential oils for Aries, personally, I like to use peppermint. I think it's really wonderful for attention, a little bit of like diluted peppermint that you can kind of put on your temples or anything that's going to kind of make you more alert or more like kind of focused and wake you up can work, but you can opt for that in an essential diffuser. You can put a little bit of that into a bath. You can put that in a spray bottle. That's a good energy to work with. And Aries colors are often associated with red, right? Because it's a fire element. So reds and like bronzes are generally the colors that we see. So you don't have to use those colors on an altar cloth or with a candle. Literally, white candles are my go-to with the eclipses. We don't need to have any colors. But if you're wanting to do something, to celebrate that, or if you're wanting to get like orange or red fruits or offerings, you can do that as well. Crystals that I like to work with for Aries energy. Probably number one for me is carnelian. because it is about promoting courage, and it has a really strong kind of connection to the root chakra, and it helps you feel grounded while also empowered at the same time. I like red jasper, bloodstone, citrine, clear quartz, garnet, and amethyst. These are the crystals that I would generally use working with Aries energy. So if you happen to have one or two of those, throwing it in your pocket, putting it in your backpack or your purse, wearing something simple on your wrist, like a bracelet or something, can be helpful for this eclipse as well. Now, the eclipse will be at 19 degrees, which means if you have anything from about 17 to 21 degrees of Aries, you are going to be impacted by this eclipse. It can feel, honestly, quite turbulent. So be mindful that this is kind of in the air, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Take it easy and just be mindful that there can be a lot more action going on in that area of your life, depending on which house it lands in. Equally, Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising people are going to be feeling this strongly, okay? Cardinal signs as well. So I think about Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. If you have any personal Sun, Moon, Rising, or other planets in a cardinal sign from 17 to 21 degrees, you will feel the square. So you're going to feel the impacts of this pretty strongly. But let me know how this is kind of playing out for you guys. I think for me, a lot of the solar eclipse stuff is already hitting, but I don't want to I don't want to tempt the universe to give me any more. So we'll see. All right, so let's take it now to the 9th. So this is going to be Tuesday. And something that we're going to see Tuesday morning is that the moon actually shifts into Taurus. So we're out of the eclipse. It's over in a way. Things may calm down a little bit more for you guys. And very early in the morning when that ingress happens, generally we really love the moon in Taurus. It's very grounded. It's exalted there. But the moon will immediately come into a square with Pluto. So I kind of feel like there's some solar eclipse hangover taking place on Wednesday morning. So just be mindful, on Tuesday morning, that there's going to be a little bit of an emotional hangover, because that moon square Pluto is feeling emotionally threatened, feeling a little reactionary. That moon's feeding off of Venus, which is in Aries. So there can be a sense of being a little spicy, a little prickly. It'll be very quick moving. So for some of you guys, it'll be so early in the morning, you don't notice it. So it might be a little bit easier to manage. But still, I feel like that's the effects of, post eclipse. Now the moon's going to keep moving through Taurus all day. It's going to make a few slight aspects. Probably the biggest one that I can see is that it's going to start in the PM hours, coming into a sextile with Mars and Saturn. Otherwise, pretty unaspected moon all day. It's feeding off of Venus, which is also equally pretty unaspected. So I do anticipate that Tuesday may be a little bit more of a calmer day. Don't forget, though, we're still in the retrograde. There's still a lot of miscommunications and misunderstandings. So I'm not saying nothing is going to happen. And for a lot of us, we're going to feel like April is going to be kind of trying to put together some kind of puzzle or information and trying to figure out what's really going on. So it can still be a little confusing. Now, the Mars-Saturn conjunction is also building. We're seeing this on the 9th, but it will not be exact until the 10th. So if we take this into Wednesday the 10th, we wake up then in the morning and the moon is in Taurus still. It is sextiling Mars and Saturn. So, moon in Taurus is stable, kind of calm, it's secure. We hear a lot more news about food, money, resources. I anticipate the moon square Pluto maybe kicking up some stuff in regards to banking and financial news. But this moon sextile Mars, because Mars rules the North Node, it's this is how people are reacting to financial changes, financial news, things that are going on with the earth. Obviously, there's been a ton of crazy stuff that's happened. We've heard about a handful of different earthquakes that have been happening. I think we had one, what was it? Was it in Singapore, I want to say? I can't remember if that's where it was, but that one was pretty gnarly. You saw all kinds of buildings falling. We just had an eclipse also that happened in New Jersey. I don't know if New York was impacted. Guys, this is Jupiter-Uranus energy. Taurus is the earth. Jupiter expands and makes things bigger, and we become more sensitive to things, and Uranus quakes. So I do anticipate we're going to see more rocks, rattles, and rolls, potentially even in this next week, and really clear into May of 2024. So I don't think this is the end yet. I think we're going to see more personally. But I'm interested in what's going on in the morning with that sextile to Saturn and Mars, because this is in Taurus and this Saturn-Mars conjunction is at a 14 degrees, which is relating to Taurus. So likely because there is some limitation of something going on with food, resources, or energy, there can be a sense of people getting a little bit weird. So there's a lot of Taurus energy in the skies. Jupiter is also the dispositor of this. So just the moon coming in conjunction with Jupiter is activating this Mars-Saturn, where we want to have something, we want to move forward, but we're shy, we're scared, we feel blocked, we feel limited. All of these Taurus degrees literally deal with food or money. So I could see it as some people being like, do I need to get supplies? Do I need to have cash on hand? Like, these are things that generally we ask ourselves when we see some of these aspects. It's interesting to me that it's happening post-eclipse. You know, I personally am not like going to be a fear monger for, oh my God, it's the end of the world, because I don't think so, but I also don't doubt that there can be some chaotic things from the eclipse that can happen that can lead to some challenges pertaining to Saturn and Mars. That has shown us in recent weeks that this is about attacks, secret attacks, some kind of conflict that's going on, especially in regards to foreign lands, where there is some kind of like union that's building or some kind of group that's building that's about including people in war, trying to create some global conflict. Literally, the eclipse in itself, with the sun conjunct Chiron, you know, people see in traditional astrology that that's marked as like an end of a ruler or an end of a king. And it's interesting that when the eclipse happens, Mars is conjuncting Saturn. So I anticipate that we're either going to see someone like the Pope step down, or some religious figure get sick and die, or maybe we're going to see, you know, some attack on a world leader. Obviously, touch wood, we don't hope that these things happen, but it's very likely that we see something like this that happens in the next week. And I think it may be a secret organized attack, or something that is kind of strategic. We can also see that it can be things revolving or relating to something that they eat, because Taurus is about food, or it can be, you know, some kind of takedown because of something they're trying to do with like money or finances. That could be the other connection. But pretty much on the 10th, you know, this moon, you know, in conjunction to Jupiter, we feel things, you know, things feel bigger. There's bigger news about the markets. There's bigger news about the banks. And then the moon's going to keep moving, and it's going to start coming into conjunction with Uranus. So I'm personally watching the moment that Mars and Saturn come into conjunction. So like right around the afternoon of the 10th, the dispositor, right, Jupiter, is coming into conjunction, you know, also with the moon and Uranus. So I'm like, yeah, there's gonna be some kind of shakeup. There's gonna be another earthquake, or there's gonna be some kind of financial earthquake, or we're gonna hear about some kind of, you know, financial boom. Like, something is likely to happen, because they are not only in a sextile, but the dispositor is directly connected to events. We see events happen with the moon. It's not just because, oh, you know, Mars is conjuncting Saturn. There has to be like another aspect that's taking place. So there's that. And as Venus gets closer and closer, right, to the North Node, the future is unknown about money. The future is unknown about relationships. And therein lies some of the challenges of this eclipse, where it's saying like, we have to be more focused on ourselves. We can't be focused on what's going on in other countries, or we can't be focused on some kind of conflict or this or that. Like, we need to be more kind of steadfast in putting our blinders on and being like, what are we doing on a personal level and also on a national level, and not getting swept into some of the events that are going on in the world. And so I think the Mercury retrograde is going to do what it's going to do. It's going to have a lot of people talking about that. So sudden shifts in emotion, effects in finances, financial growth or turbulence. You know, the earth may rock, rattle, and roll. We may see something happen with that particular trigger. And that's pretty much everything that's going to be happening on the 10th. Now, the Mars-Saturn stuff, though, that's important. I am doing a separate video on that, but I will tell you that 14 degrees, okay, so that's where the conjunction is happening. It's a Taurus degree. So let's read about that. Okay, so here we go. So this is the Taurus degree, which is generally 2, 14, or 26. Okay, so notice Mars and Saturn are meeting up here at 14. But You're already feeling this when the eclipse happens. This is about money, wallets, because of money, to like money. Banks, bank employees, economy, economists, bankers. Villages, farmers, countries of origin. To eat, kitchen, things that are fat or greasy. Nature, forest, meadow, park, biology. Throat, neck, vocal cords. Swallow or choke. To grow or raise. To have, possess what is mine, because it's a Taurus energy. And the color green, and to sing. Okay, so quite literally, Mars, which in Pisces, behind the North Node is saying like we're feeling helpless for something, or we're feeling like we need something, or maybe we're kind of feeling lost in terms of where we're supposed to be going. And then Saturn limits that connection to 14 degrees is people realizing like it's harder to acquire the necessary things that we need to live, to pay the bills, to, buy the things that we need, to be able to get the food that we need, the services that we need. This is all screaming to me that there is going to be some kind of awareness that's like, oh, there's about to be a limitation. Equally, Mars being the dispositor of all this Aries, Mercury is about to conjunct the sun, which means this is going to be about people being told where they can and cannot go, or what they can or cannot buy, what they can or cannot consume. Something like that's potentially going to happen as well. So they're kind of reverberating off of each other a little bit. I'm thinking about wallets and being told like, oh, something is going to cost more, or, something about digital wallets, or because there's this shock and surprise revolving around fears of illnesses, it's increasing prices, and likely we're going to see increased prices of utilities. It can be internet, services. It can be beef. Taurus can also be, just like consumer goods, natural products. I have some more insight on that in just a second. So the conjunction that's happening at 14 degrees though, the Sabian symbol for this is an officer preparing to drill his men. The symbol is associated with the themes of leadership, discipline, and organization. It represents a need for clear direction and structure, as well as the ability to command and lead officers effectively. The symbol suggests the importance of preparation and practice and achieving mastery and success in one's endeavor. And that makes sense because, Mars it represents like a warrior, or like somebody who's in the military, or a soldier. And Saturn is saying like, get in line, get it together, get things going. And things being a drill. Well, as of this week, we're hearing stuff all over, Europe apparently, that, Germany is like telling troops to prepare, to defend themselves. We're hearing talks about how NATO is planning to bring Ukraine in and make them a member. As we're coming into end of April, going into May, there's going to be these like military drills that are going on, connected to NATO as well. So I feel like this is going to be the beginning process of starting to hear, okay, things are moving. Like we're starting to see military operations that are taking place. You may notice that there is more presence in your area. We may hear that there's more stuff on the move revolving around like ships and things pertaining to water and ports. That's something else that I think I've said before. But I think that, when I look at what's going on with Mars, like the Mars-Saturn conjunction, it's very much baked into the eclipse, and it's saying, part of the wound that we're feeling is being like, man, this new thing that I have to initiate, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be really hard, or it's going to take a lot of effort, or it's going to require me to spend less money. It's going to require me to consume less food. It's going to require me to have stronger faith, right? And so it makes us uncomfortable, Aries. Chiron. It makes us reevaluate, can I do it? Is it possible? But Mars, Saturn, and Pisces also talks about hard work, determination, and the willingness to make sacrifices in order to be stronger, more independent, more physically fit, more capable, more able. And so, a lot of hard work and commitment is going to have to go into whatever new things that are beginning for us. And it's not just about physical work, it's faith. Pisces is faith, having a strong faith, walking and practicing and being in our faith. And also being advocates for peace instead of war. That's necessary as well, because Pisces does not want conflict. It wants conflict resolution. It wants wars to die down. And maybe it will materialize as, well, if we're moving into a phase where we're trying to actually have more peace and less wars, how do we learn how to connect with other people? You know, part of that retrograde and the solar eclipse conjunct Chiron is saying, when we're removing this sense of needing to be combative and angry and hostile, and we're saying, okay, we're making room for peace. There's a lot of people who have, you know, I guess I would say, yeah, there's an agenda for agitation and disruption. There's an agenda to, you know, want to beat the drums of war because it makes money, right? That's what this is all about. And we keep people divided and we keep them isolated. And I think that it's going to be a really interesting thing if we are actually bringing in new leaders or new role models with this eclipse who are saying, actually, we shouldn't be doing that. And we're going to start to see where so much of our identity and our focus, either on a religious level, a personal level, a national level, a cultural level, that hate and anger and separation and division has become so ingrained in us. To want to hate other people, you know, for certain reasons, or that's what we've been told. And like, we're trying to heal that wound. And in order to do that, we have to have peace. And so I think you're going to see a lot of people who have been like, well, I've always been told to hate this country or this particular religion or this ethnicity. And like, we're going to realize like, well, there's no more room for hate. There's no more space for that. That we are going to be left having to really look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves why we have become so angry and so confrontational. And that if there is no need for this in the future, why are we still shit disturbing? And so I think a lot of people are going to realize like, you know, we personally can be the problem. We can be perpetuating that. We can be creating that conflict. And in reality, it's hurting the individuals, right? It's not hurting the people who are on top, who are making money off of this. It's not hurting the people who are making decisions to send people to war because they're not going and they're not sending their kids. So I think people are going to start waking up and realizing like we should not be hating other people. We should be loving our neighbors, and we should also learn to have conflict resolution. We should not jump to conclusions. We can't have, you know, our anger kind of on this hairpin trigger where we just kind of blow up on people, because actions have consequences during this Mercury retrograde, guys. It is gnarly. Now I'm going to tell you something. You know, today forward on the 10th, we're going to see Mars trapped between Saturn and Neptune. So once this conjunction happens, it's starting a new cycle. So surprise, look at where Pisces is in your chart. The Mars-Saturn conjunction is where hard work, dedication, and sacrifice will be a theme for the next 2 years. But once Mars passes that, okay, really until the later part of April when Mars goes into Aries, Mars is trapped between Saturn and Neptune. So it feels to me suspicious. It feels to me, you know, Mars is traditionally the planet of illness. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's about fevers and it's about death, and it has connections to Scorpio. It's about poisons. It's about conflict and challenges. So that conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, which is, you know, kind of sleepy, but also it's suspicious. It's conspiracy-esque. It can be about issues with boats, bridges, dams, water. Some kind of organized, intentional, you know, effect or destruction or breakdown of infrastructure, right? Especially anything that could move money or supplies or water or anything like that, because it's all feeding off of Jupiter. Why? Because you create the conflict or the crisis, sell you the solution, right? That's basically how this works. And so expect to see stuff like this. Expect to see prices go up on things because of intentional, organized kind of takedowns of things that are going to affect resources. Now, then we start to see on Thursday, which is the 11th. Okay, so the moon's going to keep moving. It'll come into conjunction with Uranus. That'll be right around the early evening. So things kind of rock, rattle, and roll then. That moon will keep moving into Gemini. So on the 11th, on Thursday, when we wake up in the morning, it's first in Taurus, and then it's going to shift into Gemini. So for most of the day, it'll be in Gemini. Here's what's interesting here. Powerful day. This is a very powerful communication day. Likely if you were like, what the hell is the Mercury retrograde about? This is the day that you want to pay attention. Moon will trine Pluto, which means that media is going to be wild with information. There's going to be something kind of coming out. There's going to be stuff that's being relayed to others, connections to the internet, and a lot of people talking about something. When the moon is in Gemini, we look at Mercury. And this is where Mercury is doing its Cazimi. So we're going to see that as the halfway point through the Mercury retrograde at 22 degrees of Aries. So if you have anything around like 21, 22-ish, Pay attention because it can be a really significant day for some information you're receiving, an intuitive download. I'm going to do a video on that, don't worry. But the trine to Pluto makes me feel like communication and working together, sharing news, okay? This Cazimi that's going to take place is going to be taking place at 22 degrees of Aries. So this is a Capricorn degree. And this is a degree that deals with like challenges, hard work, Saturn-related things, because that's what Capricorn is about. So this is older people who are older in age. So like we might hear some kind of news about like an older leader or somebody having some kind of like health related issue, because Mercury relates to health and Mars is still conjunct Saturn. It's about history, archaeology, something from the past, or antiques, late with a delay, later than usual, something that lasts long lasting, with trouble or difficulty, to suffer, depression, gloomy, cold, winter, snow, ice, or anything that deals with coldness. Slow, dragging, doing something with delay, resistance, enduring longevity, bad luck, spite, skin diseases, cancer, long-lasting treatment, poverty, shortage of something. Always something missing, something sour, colors that are black, gray, or darker shades. Rocks, cliffs, mountains, rock climbing, dust, dirty, soiled, smeared, and made of natural materials. Now, here's something that's interesting, because I've seen two things in the news that have come up that have really piqued my interest about this Mercury retrograde. One is this groundbreaking information that's all over X, where people are talking about how there's this damning new evidence and studies about how people are finding chemicals connected to Band-Aid brands, you know, the ones we've been putting on our kids and using since we were little when we scraped our knees, leads to cancer. Putting those chemicals directly into an open wound. Mercury retrograde in Aries, I mean, literally wounding the self, and Mercury can be about healing. It's also about news, and it's connected to Saturn, where we're finding out there are things that are kind of like toxic or poisonous. You know, the Mars-Saturn conjunction. Stuff that you're not going to hear on the news that you don't want to talk about. If you don't believe me, go and look it up. I also think about how, you know, this bird flu that everybody's talking about. You know, do I think this is like the next disease X? No, I personally do not. I'm not worrying about it. I think it's just something that's going to get people kind of worried and riled up. But here's some interesting facts. Mercury rules animals, particularly animals that can fly in the air, right? Smaller animals, so things like birds. Chickens generally don't fly, but stay with me. The moon, when the moon is in conjunction to Mercury, that actually does mean chicken, okay? So if you look up chicken in the astrology keyword book, it'll say moon, Mercury, or moon in Virgo. So something we are going to see, right, with the eclipse is that the eclipse is kind of blasting out Mercury. Mercury has yet to Cazimi. So I am anticipating we're going to hear more information about this. If you haven't heard about it, you probably live under a rock. But they're saying that there's this new like bird flu and the strains are impacting, you know, flocks, and it could potentially be dangerous. And they're saying it could, you know, be super hazardous and it could be more fatal than COVID, and that it can jump to cows and all this stuff. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about this stuff. I just do astrology, and I can tell you that I think it's bullshit. And be smart about where you're getting your poultry products from. Obviously, wash your food, do what you have to do. Opt, if you can, to get organic or buy stuff directly from farmers or ranchers. There's a lot of information out there that I think needs to be known about, you know, how we're actually, you know, growing this meat, where it's coming from, you know, the conditions that these chickens are in obviously can have a huge impact. But yeah, Moon Mercury is chickens. Aries is ruled by Mars, which is conjunct Saturn. And so this is an example of disease, right? So that's how that plays out. And then we've got these Taurus degrees when the Mars-Saturn conjunction took place. So it does talk about limitations, shortages of food. Not to mention the hundreds of, you know, processing factories of food processing plants that have been burnt down, and also all the other effects that we have seen revolving around cattle and fires. There's no doubt that there are limitations of food coming. If you don't already see this, you're going to see it. And it's really important to pay attention because the prices will go up. So likely you're going to see eggs skyrocket again. We're going to see these manufactured crises that's going to have an impact on what we can consume. Rather than freaking out about that, ask yourself, why are we not supposed to be eating meat? Why are we not supposed to be eating eggs?
I remember reading an article last year that was saying that, people who were eating like several eggs a day were less likely to actually contract COVID, and that it had all these vitamins and minerals and stuff in it. So call me a conspiracy theorist, but part of me is kind of like, why is there this agenda to get people off of eating meat? Like, if you don't eat meat, that's fine. I support that. But I feel like people should have the freedom to decide what they want to eat and also know where their food is coming from. But I think about this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's coming up here pretty soon, and you guys are going to see so much about this push for, bioprocessed food and meat, and how these major chicken retailers are now going to be bringing in mealworm products and putting it into your chicken nuggets that you're giving your kids. That there's going to be these new lab-grown meat burgers and other things that's like a fraction of the cost of what a real burger would cost, and they're going to start selling it at McDonald's and Burger King. Like, literally, you're going to start seeing this stuff. And it will become, oh, it's good for the planet, it's healthy. But in reality, if you go and do your research, there's like cancerous stuff that's coming from some of this food. And it's convenient, it's safe, right? Oh, all the celebrities are going to be eating it. It's good for you, bugs are good for you. I'm like, no. And so I think this Mercury retrograde is really about people waking up and realizing, like, why is there an attack on people being able to be self-sustainable and having access to healthy food? Quite literally. So you want to pay attention, because likely the things that are being the most affected are probably the things that could potentially be giving you the most nutrients and the most benefit. I think there's some connection to this hysteria with the bird flu and Mercury retrograde. I expect these, things to continue throughout the month. I was reading, per the news this week, that the U.S. spent $1 million in gain-of-function research with China on developing a stronger bird flu, so they could better prepare to prevent it, of course, right? So why would they be doing that, trying to develop it? It sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? To like something that happened with like bats that came out of like a wet market. What is gain of function, right? Why are we doing that with China? And why do we need to be focusing on being prepared for this next thing? I personally don't think it's disease X. I think this is just more to scare people. I'm curious, because I've heard a lot of like the meetings and stuff where they're talking about other diseases that have no connection to this. But yeah, be mindful of what's going on in the world, stay vigilant, and watch for some information, I think, regarding this, or some kind of like government, statement that's like, oh yeah, it's jumping from birds to cattle, and like, now we're going to limit what you can buy, or suddenly you're going to see the price of meat skyrocket. I think that will happen with Jupiter Uranus anyway. What else? So, this conjunction, obviously it's a superior conjunction. And so Mercury retrograding conjunct the sun is that halfway point through the retrograde. So that's why I said this is the day of awareness. So if you weren't aware of what was happening, now you become aware of what's happening. You're kind of realizing like, whoa, this thing is going on. It's difficult. I need to make a change. It's in the second decan. So it does deal with, like Leo related things that are happening now. So this makes me feel like part of what's happening from the shift from the third into the second decan is going to be more about like our beliefs. It's going to be more about, what we believe we're capable of doing, what we believe we can achieve, and some kind of shift also around personal faith. That could be something else. So it's going to go actually from the third retrograding into the second. So it's a Jupiter degree. Some sort of news about a ruler being attacked, military action, shift involving news, particularly journalists, independent journalists, or media. Hearing all kinds of stuff about lots of layoffs going on with journalists in mainstream news. No surprise, it's dying. Go and support your local or your favorite independent, journalist. I think that's one of the best things you can be doing, whether you want to find people that you want to support on Substack or on YouTube or other people who are going out there and getting the news. But I think that we're going to start finding out more about this, that they're actually starting to scale back with media because of some of this stuff. What else? So nothing will make sense, basically, both about the retrograde as well as the eclipse until Mercury retrograde is over, okay, when it's out of shadow. So all the craziness between the eclipse and the retrograde is going to cause a bit of a topsy-turvy situation until we get to about the 13th or the 14th of May. So when we get to that point next month, then we're going to better make sense of like what weird, strange events were happening, what news was coming out. I think that this is the beginning of some of the news circulation in regards to the health scare that may materialize as them trying to do some like crazier things in like May or June. Because like I said, the eclipse is going to be most impactful for about the first 100 days. All right, and so something else I wanted to note is that doesn't sound like a big deal, but I think it's a big deal because we're going to see Pluto hit 2 degrees of Aquarius. Okay, so that'll also happen on this day, right here. So Pluto's been in Aquarius, it went to 1 degree, now it's at 2 degrees, so it's entering a new degree, but this is also a Taurus degree. There's so many damn Taurus degrees, it's like crazy. And so when a planet hits 2 degrees, it's pretty significant because it gains some sort of strength, right? It gets like solid, or something starts building, or something feels like it's more, grounded in a way. So if Pluto deals with power, if it deals with crisis, if it deals with transformations, and the dispositor of this is both Saturn, which is conjunct Mars, and Uranus, which is conjunct Jupiter, it's pretty clear that we're about to see some kind of chaotic situation, either involving the Earth or a financial situation, or with some kind of leadership or limitations of some sort, right? So it will be here until May 23rd. So it's pretty crazy because we get into May, we start seeing all these planets coming into conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus. I think that's when we're going to see the big boom. But worthy of mentioning, especially, because 2 degrees always deals with money and resources. So I think that this is when there is this realization. I think a lot of it actually has to do with CBDCs. There's more news coming out about this, and it almost seems like since the news has been getting out, since information has been getting out, people are starting to realize that it's not just like a pipe dream. It's something that is on track to be happening in the immediate next 1 to 2 years. Pluto can be about control, right? And because Uranus is connected to this, it's about trying to control what's going on with inflation, trying to control what's going on with some kind of like financial boom, or with consumers and what they're buying, and trying to control some sense of rebelling against the financial system. So they're all kind of correlated here. But also it can be more shakes, quakes and shakes. That can definitely come up with Pluto being at 2 degrees. So watch for that until the 23rd. All right, so now we're going to take the moon through Gemini. So it's going to keep moving. In the PM hours, it's going to make some nice aspects. We're going to kind of start to see it sextile Venus and the North Node. So that's nice. The Cazimi is kind of still, you're still feeling it. But once Mercury passes the sun and the sun pulls ahead, we're kind of losing it. But still, first in the day, big communication day on the 11th. All right, so this is now going to take us to Friday. So this is the 12th. In the morning, the moon is in Gemini, okay? And on one hand, it's going to square Mars and Saturn. So it's like we want to travel, we want to get around, we want to connect, and we feel like we're being blocked, we're hitting traffic, it's difficult to communicate, it's difficult to, relay information, make sense of things. There can be some weather events taking place. And then on the other hand, the moon is in a sextile to the North Node, to Chiron, eventually to the sun and Mercury. So this means that we can communicate, walk around, bike, travel, write, learn, all of these things if we take the initiative. If we're like, yes, we're going to get going with something. So you're going to fall into one of two camps. It's going to be like, are you going to be proactive and do something about it? Or are you going to feel like, I'm afraid, I'm not making any moves, I'm not doing anything, right, personally? I've heard a lot of people, and I was thinking about this, and I don't know why this message was coming up for me, but there was a lot of people who were like freaked out about like power outages and stuff with this eclipse. And I would say looking at the moon, which rules vehicles, right, Gemini, and the Mercury retrograde that's happening, right, like leading up to the eclipse. If you're worried about something, go and get a flashlight, get an extra pack of batteries, buy a case of water if these are things that you feel like you need, so you're prepared. But I was also thinking about this square with the moon to Saturn and Neptune, and like how this can impact internet and communications, how there can be some issues that can be going on with power because Mercury is dying in the heart of the sun, so something kind of fizzles out in a way. And if you're in a position where you're like, I want to know that I have transportation or I can get around, if the power goes out, probably smart to leave your car on your driveway, like to not leave all of your vehicles inside, because if the power goes out and if you don't have a generator, you're not going to open your garage. And I don't know, that was just coming up for me. And then I saw the moon square Saturn and Mars and Neptune, you know, or have a bike or have an alternate way of like transportation if you're really worried about that, right? But I think that the sextile to all these Aries placements is going to basically be like, if in the off chance there's some weird stuff that goes on, you know, people are going to find ways to still get active, to still, you know, communicate and kind of get things, you know, together. They're going to have to be a little bit more action oriented, but like it will be fine. So that is a little annoying with the moon square Saturn and Mars. Okay, so there can definitely be some transportation issues. And then the moon's going to keep moving. It'll start coming into a sextile in the PM hours with the North Node, Chiron, Mercury, and the Sun. So the sextile is nice because it's saying we can communicate, we can get around, we can do things as long as we're like really showing up and being active and being bold and assertive. So instead of getting caught in this whole like, what am I going to do type of vibe, it's being like, okay, I have a plan, like here we go. And kind of getting things in order. That moon will continue to keep moving through Gemini into the PM hours. It's going to start to pick up on the 13th, which is Saturday in the morning. It's starting to pick up a square to Neptune. So I could see Saturday morning as being like having a difficult time emotionally relating, you know, moon square Neptune, feeling a little bit more sensitive, hard to relate to other people, feeling a little reflective, you know, wanting to kind of keep to yourself a little bit. But that moon ingress will happen like midday, and we're going to see the moon go into Cancer. So once it breaks out of the square with Neptune and it moves into Cancer, totally different vibe. Then, you know, the moon's at home in its own sign. The only other thing we're going to see is that on the 13th, that there is going to start being some squares to Venus. So, you know, this will be, as we get to like, I think like the 14th going into the 15th, we're going to see the first quarter square. Okay. So this is going to be big because we had a solar eclipse in Aries. So as the moon is going through Cancer, it's going to square the eclipse point, and it's going to represent the opening challenge within this next lunar cycle of being like, how do we feel? And like, how are we reflecting on what's happened? And like, do we feel like we need to kind of pay attention to our emotions and that kind of stuff? So it may kick around a little bit for some of you. But other than that, you're not going to see much. It looks like the moon is not going to pick up until, let's see. Yeah, it'll be in the PM hours actually, going into the next day. So then it'll be on the 14th. So this is Sunday. The moon is going to start coming into a square with Venus. This is interesting, moon square Venus. How do we relate to other people? You know, like, how am I feeling? Like, do I really want to kind of initiate relationships? Am I really feeling sociable? Like, how to like kind of read other people and kind of feeling like lost or confused? We may feel like a difference of opinion or needs when it comes to relationships or values. I would say watch for that. That's going to be happening on the 14th in the morning. So this is Sunday. But the benefit is that once we get out of that weird little square, we have another interesting time period here. This is going to be around 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock PM, and it's going to be around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast. Maybe it's nothing. I think it's something. The moon is going to square the North and the South Node, okay, at 15 degrees. And it's also then going to trine Saturn and Mars. So it's saying, okay, if we tap into what we need emotionally, if we're listening to our intuition, if we're more focused on our home and security, we're really paying attention to our needs, we can actively like change something about our direction, our path, our destiny. When the moon squares the nodes, that's what happens. Like we find that there are fated or fateful events that happen. And this will be coming into the first quarter square. So pay attention to Sunday of next week. As that moon comes out of the square and the trine, where maybe we have to like really listen to our emotions and use that as like fuel and motivation for where we're going. Then the moon is going to hit 19 degrees. And that's going to be really late going into the next morning on Monday, where the moon will square Chiron and the eclipse degree. So Sunday night, Monday morning, we're in that first quarter square. Expect, and I'll talk about this next week, that is the first hurdle or the first sense of needing to kind of like take action post solar eclipse in Aries. And like I said, eclipses reverberate, over the period of months and sometimes years. You want to be most focused with what's going on this month. Know that whatever is being seeded from this eclipse will play out between now and I would say like August. But in reality, right, this will be a huge turn of events that are initiating something new, and it has not been decided because of the Mercury retrograde. That will play out for the better part of the next 4 years. All right, so let me give you guys my predictions for the eclipse for the 12 rising signs. I'm not going to get into the eclipse or the effects of it. I just feel like we could all use a little bit. We could all use a little bit more guidance. So I'll pull up the eclipse on my chart. But once again, if you guys want to see the solar eclipse prediction video, go and watch it. It's out. It's on my channel somewhere. Maybe we'll like pin it somewhere so you guys can go watch it. But I do a deep dive into that and talk about all of the things revolving around the eclipse, okay? This is just me giving you guys some insight for the 12 rising signs. So listen to your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. This is a solar eclipse, so it may really apply to your sun or your moon sign. And also listen to your ascendant. And so this is just some cosmic goodness for you in terms of what are the results of this eclipse. That's what I'm focusing on. What are the results of this eclipse? And, what is it that you need to focus on in this next week? Okay, so I'm going to start first with my Aries and my Aries rising. Okay, so this is what the tarot has to say for this solar eclipse for you in your sign, in your first house. What are the results of this particular eclipse going to be? And what does the universe want you to focus on? You saw it jump. Okay, it wasn't me. The card that I got is the Tower. Okay, obviously off to a challenging start, but Mars is what's connected to the Tower, right? That's what this is about. And so the Tower card is about sudden change, upheaval, revelations, awakening, destruction of old foundations, disaster, trauma, chaos, and radical shifts. Okay? And Mars is back here. I really feel like for you, it's about like the end of one like belief system or how you saw yourself or what you believed you were or were not capable of. When I see this card, I kind of feel inclined to tell you, just let the cards fall where they may. Let whatever is going to happen, and reassess the damage at a later date. You'll have all month to get things in order. You may feel like things are breaking down, but actually it's about having a breakthrough, okay? Let me know, Aries. Hang in there. I feel you as a fellow Aries moon. All right, so we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. This is what the tarot wants you to know about this solar eclipse in Aries. What will the results be, and what do you want to focus on? The card that I get for you is the King of Wands, okay? Passion is like a big theme that comes up with this. Creativity, being a leader, having a vision, being bold, daring, and charming, an entrepreneur, being powerful, looking at the big picture, and being optimistic and taking control. I think this is about you having a vision for the future, getting excited about what you are initiating, and really stepping up to the plate and focusing on your goals. So channel that King of Wands energy and be brave. We have got Gemini and Gemini rising. This is what the tarot says about the results of the solar eclipse in Aries taking place for you, what to focus on, and what to expect. The card that I get for you is the Page of Pentacles. So this seems to indicate an opportunity to plant a seed, something that can bring you more abundance, something that can bring you better health. This is also a sense of you fine-tuning your finances. So when this card comes up, it's about a manifestation, staying grounded, ambitious, offering a gift, being goal-oriented, financial opportunities, planning, consistent, loyal, faithful messenger. So there can be a message that's coming about these things. And so it is possible that this is kind of connecting and correlating to something about your financial goals, what you're hoping to achieve, and how you go about kind of growing something in terms of your goals or your finances. Good luck, Gemini. We have got Cancer and Cancer rising. All right, Cancer. So this is what the tarot wants you to know. This is the results of the solar eclipse. and what you need to focus on during this time. The card that I got for you is the Eight of Pentacles. I think that's so appropriate because, well, you're having the eclipse in your 10th house of work and career. This is about craftsmanship, you know, working hard, mastering your craft, focusing and being dedicated, hard work, skills development, talent, high standards, commitment, and expertise. Obviously, you're very affected by, you know, lunar transits. I think this is about you realizing that you have a lot of work to do in a certain area of your life. There is a lot of responsibility, but also this is about fine-tuning and really focusing on developing your strengths so that way you can be the most successful version of yourself, right? That's a good one for you, Cancer. Good luck. We have Leo and Leo rising. This is what the tarot wants you to know for the results of this particular solar eclipse in Aries. What to expect. Okay. You have a sassy deck today. You get the Chariot. I think that's so cool because the eclipse is in your 9th house. It can literally be about travel. Action, success, motivation, moving forward, control, willpower, determination, two opposing forces, working towards a common goal. So I like this for you because it's a solar eclipse, right? So that involves your chart ruler being a Leo or Leo rising. So it's about your goals, your beliefs, where you're going, where you're traveling to, what your end kind of goal is. So this can be about like booking trips, planning trips, going to school, you know, getting cars, things like that. But I think this is about like you really feeling the momentum building and being like, yes, I'm going after what I want, or like there is some kind of sense of like really figuring out what life is all about, and you're feeling very enthusiastic about moving forward. And I think you'll literally be on the move. So watch for that. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. This is going to be the insight that you get from the tarot in regards to the results of this particular solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, what to anticipate, what to focus on, and what you need to know. The card that I get is the Page of Swords. Okay, so this is also a messenger card. This can be about communications. It can be about, you know, being curious. This can be also about like mental related things, thirst for knowledge or research, a restlessness, but feeling inspired. I think this is interesting because Mercury is retrograde right now. So that really impacts Virgo and Virgo rising. I think that the retrograde in the 8th house is like having you dive deeper into subjects or like things revolving around self-healing or healing trauma or therapy or how you look at change. And so I think there can be some really powerful messages coming up for you that can lead you to be more curious or finding like new books or authors or programs or other things. This can also mean that there is a message that comes to you. And so maybe you're going to see that like in a dream, especially right around the Cazimi. Maybe you're feeling inspired to journal or write something down, you know, so it might mean that there's just a lot of talk that's going on around this eclipse about making personal changes. Good luck, Virgo. This is for Libra and Libra rising. These are your results from the solar eclipse in Aries, how to work with this energy, and what you need to be focusing on during this time. We've got the Page of Cups. Oh, so many pages, so many new beginnings. For you, Libra, this is about being idealistic, being a dreamer, sensitive. It can also be about being innocent, working with your inner child, intuitive messages, curiosity, possibilities, and having your head in the clouds. Now, pages are children. They're seen as younger people. This can mean that you're feeling more kind of open to relationships. You're feeling like you're warming up to the idea of them. There can be somebody new that comes into your life, or there can be like a connection or a new emotion that's being felt. And it makes sense to me because, you know, you're having this eclipse, you know, in your 7th house. So it can be about opening up to new possibilities in relationships or new people. And also Venus kind of being in your 7th house as well is kind of bringing new people in, but it's the beginning phases of this. So if it's not a romantic relationship, it could be a relationship with a kid. Pages can be children. It can be about a new romantic partner, a new playmate. But it can also be about the connection that you have to people who are emotional and kind of sympathetic towards you. So counselors, therapists, you know, people who are supporting you in some way. And so it looks like your heart is kind of opening up to that. Good luck, Libra. That's a good card for you. We have Scorpio and Scorpio rising. These are the results of the solar eclipse. What you need to focus on to best work with this energy as you see this eclipse come through your 6th house. The card that you get is Judgment. Ooh, this is a good one, Scorpio. Judgment, final decisions, absoluteness, wake-up call, inner calling, life, purpose, self-evaluation, awakening, and reckoning. Well, I could definitely see this being the case because for like a lot of Scorpios with this eclipse in their 6th house, it's like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, how am I supposed to be working? Or what is the purpose of what I'm doing? How can I be healthier? You know, like what is the trajectory basically for, for what I'm doing in my day-to-day life? And so it might mean that this eclipse is a reckoning that's like, if you're not happy with where you're working or how you're working, it's going to change. If you're not happy with your health or your, you know, personal habits, it's going to change. And you're making a decision that's definitive. That may be about like healing something, either physically or healing something revolving around your habits or even your inner child. Okay, so you're making that conscious decision with this eclipse. Really powerful for you, Scorpio. All right, so now we've got Sag and Sag rising. This is the card that's going to tell you about the results of the solar eclipse in Aries, which will be in your 5th house, Sagittarius, you know, what to focus on and how to best work with these energies. The card that I get is the High Priestess, which means you're like, I already know what I'm supposed to be doing. So the High Priestess is about your intuition. It's about mystery, sacred knowledge. It can be about visions that you're having for the future. Inner knowing, subconscious, and that inner voice, right? I think of like the High Priestess is sitting there and she doesn't have to communicate. She doesn't have to do anything. Like the answers just come to her. So having this eclipse makes me feel like you're really getting in touch and in tune with like what you know is best for you. What's going to make you happy? What's going to make your heart sing? What's going to bring you the most fulfillment personally, right? So it's about being in alignment with that inner knowing. And I think it might have a little bit of like an oomph also for your intuition. Good luck. We have Capricorn and Capricorn rising. These are your tarot predictions for the results of the solar eclipse in Aries in your 4th house, what to focus on, and how to best work with this energy this week. The card that I get is the 4 of Pentacles, okay, which is interesting because the eclipse is in your 4th house. What do I hold on to? What do I let go of in terms of my home, in terms of my family and the past? This is quite literal for you. It can be about possessiveness and security, being frugal, saving money, security, being conservative, solid investment guarded, and long-term strategy. I think this is really significant because I think that you're thinking a lot about like, where do I want to live? How do I want to live? You know, where is home going to be? You know, do I stay put or do I make a change? A lot of you guys will see from this eclipse that you're being asked to get outside of your comfort zone and find a place or a space that feels more like home. It may be a time where you're kind of, you know, also, you know, burying grudges and stuff that you've had with roommates or family members or people that you live with. So it can be asking you, are you holding on to something, whether it's an emotion or a person, a place or a thing too tightly, and potentially where do you have a lot to gain if you let something go, right? Great card for you, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. This is going to be the solar eclipse in Aries results. What to expect, what to focus on, how to work with this energy, with this solar eclipse in your 3rd house. The card that I got for you is the 2 of Swords. I like how you get 2 of Swords and then there's a Mercury retrograde in your 3rd house too, because you're like, do I do this? Do I not do this? Right? Do I buy the car? Do I not? Do I move? Do I not move? Do I send this email or not? Like you're kind of indecisive. This is about making difficult decisions. So, you know, weighing your options, doubt and inner conflicts, avoidance, hidden information, confusion, feeling in between. I think you're one of the signs that really needs to take a little bit more time until you really know that you have all of the facts, or that you're really sure about signing something, or that, you know, you're really committed when it comes to investing in something or making some kind of significant shift. especially if it involves like writing, signing contracts, like moving, you know, trips, learning. Maybe you're going back and forth deciding, well, do I relaunch my blog, or do I, you know, relaunch my website, or is it time for me, you know, to start a new like podcast? Like just wait. Because right now there's too much back and forth. And I think part of that could also be like the Mars Saturn, where there is like this sense of like not truly believing in yourself, right? There can be some sense of self-doubt. So you might need to work out some stuff a little bit more before you make a solid decision. So give yourself a little bit more time. Good luck, Aquarius. And finally, we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. So this is going to be the effects of the solar eclipse in Aries for you, taking place in your second house. This card is going to talk about the results, what to focus on, and how to best work with this energy. Oof. The card that I get is the Three of Swords. I can't say I'm surprised by this. So this is about moving through heartbreak, dealing with emotional pain, sorrow, and trauma, grief, and, you know, feeling like you're needing to tend to your wounds. It can be financial. It can also be in terms of your self-esteem and your self-security. I think a lot of this is the Mars Saturn in the first house, where there can be this sense of like doubting yourself or feeling like things are challenging, or it's feeling difficult to kind of pick yourself up and rebuild yourself at this time. The whole goal of the Three of Swords is to pull those swords out and to treat the wound, right? So you have to really address the issues head on, right, Aries, and be like, I'm going to heal this, but I need to finally address it and like move on and like tend to the wound. So this can be about some kind of feeling of loss or grief or disappointment, but I think that it's about not letting other people put out your flame or your fire, and really needing to do the work to rebuild yourself and not feel like you are not capable or not good enough, because that's really kind of the wound that you're addressing during this time. I hope this is helpful for you guys. I know it's going to be a bit of like a wild week, so just, you know, be kind to yourselves, try to be patient with other people. Do your best to, you know, avoid conflict and kind of ride the wave as we start to see this Mars-Saturn conjunction take place. Do not forget to comment if you guys can. It really helps the channel growth. You guys can leave me a thumbs up or a heart or some kind of feedback in terms of your anticipation of this eclipse and kind of like what you think might potentially happen. If you guys feel inclined, you can also consider heading over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I do personalized digital calendars for transits if you guys need some help for the year out that you can actually upload to your digital calendar. We also have printed calendars for 2024 and digital calendars that are on sale, so if that's something you guys want to check out. I am taking new clients right now. I have availability starting in July. I'm usually generally booked out 2 to 4 months at a time. So if you know that you would like to get like an eclipse follow-up, or maybe you want to get a birthday reading, or you want to get a transit reading, check out beyondtheveiltarot.com. You guys can sign up for my newsletter and also see my availability there. I also teach tarot and astrology, so if that's something that interests you, check out everything while you're there. Wishing you guys all a very positive, a very happy, healthy, new week ahead. I feel like there's still a lot of things that are shaking out, so we don't really have all the information yet, but things are going to be a little bit more clear as we get to the end of April. So keep on keeping on, and don't be afraid to create change. I'll catch you guys all back here on Tuesday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.